Hey, I'm Adam Jusko, and this is Strictly Credit Cards, where we talk about strictly credit cards. Subscribe, why don't you? In this video, we are going to talk about credit card gardening, or what it means when people say they are in the garden. But before we do that, I'm going to ask you to please subscribe to this YouTube channel if you have not already, and if you have already, I thank you for doing so. So if you have ever heard the term credit card gardening, or people talking about being in the garden when it comes to credit, you may have wondered exactly what that meant. In fact, on the MyFICO forums, where people talk about credit cards every month, there is a whole long thread devoted just to the garden and people talking about being in the garden, what's going on in their lives, how they almost, went out of the garden, all sorts of interesting things. So what does it mean? So the short answer is that people go in the garden, or they're gardening, when they make a conscious decision to stop applying for new credit cards or other loans. Why do they do this? Because they want to improve their credit profile. They want to take a break from credit cards in order to improve their credit score and improve what is on their credit report, so that they will be more desirable applicants when they go after new credit cards or loans in the future. Every month that you spend in the garden is a month that your credit accounts that are already existing are getting older, and that helps your credit score. And every month that you spend in the garden is a month that you are not having new credit inquiries go onto your credit report. And when you have new credit inquiries, that hurts your credit score. And it also hurts how you look to lenders in the future if they do a deeper dive on your credit report. In addition, if you are in the garden for a while, some of your older credit inquiries may fall off of your credit report, and that also will help your credit score. So if you have a hard inquiry, you have applied for a new credit card or a loan, that is going to affect your credit score for a year, and it is going to stay on your credit report for 2 years. So if you're in the garden and you decide, I'm not going to get any more new credit cards, no more new loans, I'm not going to have any more new inquiries on my credit report, well, then that means that some of those old inquiries may fall off depending on how long you stay in the garden, and that is going to make your overall credit picture look better, and it's going to raise your credit score. Of course, everything else being equal, meaning that you're continuing to make your payments on time and do all the other things that are good for your credit. By the way, the reason you want those credit inquiries to fall off your credit report is because you don't want it to look like you are chasing credit constantly, or you don't want to make it look like you are someone who is churning through credit cards, signing up for new credit cards just to get a sign-up bonus and then moving on to the next one. Now, most people in this world are in the garden and they don't even know it, because they rarely go after new credit cards, rarely go after new loans. So they're not worried about how many inquiries they have, not worried about how they're going to look to a lender in the future, because they don't go after credit or loans too often. The people that are worried about it, who are in the garden, are usually there for one of 3 reasons. The first reason is they might be somebody with poor credit history who has gotten some credit cards in the recent past and have made the decision that getting any more is not going to help them out in their journey to getting their credit score back to a place where they want it to be. So if they have gotten, 2 or 3 credit cards with modest limits, they may have gotten to a point where they said, getting another credit card is not going to help me anymore. It's not going to get my credit score up any faster. It is time to stop going after new credit, so I don't have so many inquiries in a short time on my credit report, and instead it is time to go into the garden. If we want to carry the garden analogy further, you could think of those new credit cards that someone with poor credit got as sort of like seeds that, now that they have them, they're not going to just keep planting and planting. They're now going to tend those seeds or small plants that they have and watch those grow before they go after more growth. The second situation that lands people in the garden is when someone is going after a new mortgage in the near future. So if you know you're going to apply for a new mortgage, you want to have at least 6 months of time where you have not applied for other credit before you go after that mortgage. So that is a rule of thumb. It's not a hard and fast rule, but that is generally the way it is thought of. 6 months with no other inquiries before that new mortgage. If your credit score is a little lower and you're not quite sure if you're going to qualify for a mortgage, well, then you probably should be in the garden for even longer, probably a year before you are going after that new mortgage application. And the third reason you might go in the garden is because you just simply have applied for too many credit cards over the last year or 2 years, and no one wants to give you any new cards anymore because you look like you are either credit hungry or you are just churning through credit cards to try to get new credit card bonuses. So people go in the garden when they realize that they really just aren't going to get any more joy from the credit card companies if they're going after those bonuses, and they're going to have to let some of those inquiries fall off their credit report so they don't look quite as bad when they are going after a new credit card. And if people feel like they are starting to get turned down because they've got too many credit cards, it's most definitely not just in their imagination. It is because many of the credit card companies, especially the major banks, have rules in place to stop people from credit card churning. So it may be that you can only have so many credit cards from that particular bank. It may be that if you have applied for X number of credit cards over the last year, over the last 2 years, or whatever their rule is, that they aren't going to give you a new credit card no matter what you do, no matter how high your credit score is. Even if you have no relationship with them and this would be the first time they could get you as a customer, they're going to say no because you have applied for too many credit cards with other banks before you got to them. The most famous rule, or the one that maybe even kicked things off in terms of the credit card companies clamping down, is Chase's 524 rule, which says that if you have gotten 5 new credit card accounts in the last 24 months, Chase is going to decline you. They are not going to be your 6th in the last 2 years, and there are other ones as well from many of the other major banks. Now, some people will do almost anything to avoid going into the garden. They will do whatever it takes to try to avoid the rules that the credit card companies set up to try to stop them. But for other people, going in the garden is actually sort of a peaceful thing, a time not only to improve their credit score, but a time maybe to take a step back, get out of the game, and stop this pursuit that for some people can become sort of an obsession. So no matter why someone does it, going into the garden or gardening is simply the act of not getting new credit, making peace with where you are and knowing that if you just get out of the game for a little while, this will actually be better for you in the future. Sometimes you have to take the long view instead of the short view. That is it for this video. Thank you for watching, and as always, please subscribe, and we'll see you next time.